today we're gonna steal a team with Shadow Luxray in the open world league from a French player, so definitely check them out as well. Going to be linked in the description. But Shadow Luxray is actually really funny and this team is super smart, so let's take a look at it. Let's move right into the gameplay. So, let's take a look here. We're going to have the first opponent having a Galvantula in the lead. We're going to have the Seisop of the Greedent on this team. We're also going to have here the Ninetales in the bag, which is, for this player at least, they use the Shadow variant. I was looking if I could build a Shadow variant, but I don't have good IVs for the Ultra League. I have a lot of really good IVs for the Great League, so maybe I take a look at this Pokemon again in the Great League as soon as this is going to come back. But yeah, this team was so much fun to play, and it was like super smart to play. If you take a look currently in the Ultra League and just like put your Shadow Luxray in, you're going to see that this Pokemon actually has a lot of really positive matchups, and so a lot of times you can win the lead, or at least you can do something. For me as well, I had a really good Luxray that I could have built, but I still had frustration, so I'm going to wait until the next event where I can get rid of it, because honestly, I feel like Shadow Luxray might have a lot of play in the future as well. Here we're going to see the full farm down against the Eagle Lizardport as the opponent swaps into the Galvantula. I will be able to still go for the Psychic Fangs to debuff them, and I thought here at this point that one more Psychic Fangs would be all it takes to knock them out because of the debuff, but I was wrong. I should have went for the Wild Charge here because this is not going to be able to knock them out, which is still okay. I still decide to use a shield here. Main reason for this, Psychic Fangs can debuff opponents, and as the opponent has a Jellicent in the back, it does not really matter anyway. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have the lead here of the Clefable. I have to admit, I did not really count the fast moves from the opponent here, and maybe I should have not went straight for my Wild Charge, because the Steel typing should be resisted from our Electric typing, so we would have been able to survive a Meteor Mash pretty easily. So maybe next time, if you would play this matchup, you would go up a little bit early, like more than the Wild Charge, because you don't have to throw immediately anyway. And if they want to go for the Meteor Mash, you would just basically let it go through and just farm up extra, and then go for 2 Wild Charges or whatever, and you can easily win the lead a little bit easier than what I did here. Also, what is kind of cool for this team, you're going to have 2 answers for Poliwrath, and Shadow Poliwrath, or like normal Poliwrath, is going to be everywhere in the Ultra League, so this is going to be a plus again for it. But how does this team really work? Of course, you kind of want to win the lead, which really would be great for this team. But if you win basically the lead, you can still just go ahead and go for a Psychic Fangs, allowing you to debuff the opponent. But what also happened quite often, and where also the Shadow Ninetales would be most likely a little bit better, is that you're going to be in a scenario where the opponent is going to end up with like one Pokemon, or like their final Pokemon, and they're locked into it or whatever. You're going to still be able to go for like 1 Psychic Fangs, and then you have only your Ninetales left. But especially for the Shadow variant, you just do so much damage with Charm. Here, of course, it's not going to do as much because we only have a normal variant available. But there is like such a great play, like great synergy of the Luxray with a debuffing move and like a hard-hitting fast move in the back with the Alolan Ninetales. And also, if you take a look at what kind of Pokemon you hit, which like with kind of which Pokemon you have here, you're going to see that there's a great synergy of having 2 answers for Giratina in the back while your lead kind of struggles against this Pokemon. You're going to have like your lead basically is the best Steel type counter, which is kind of awkward sometimes, but it's still okay. But also, you're going to be able to use this Pokemon here to knock out those Water and Poison type Pokemon, which can nice. Basically, Greedent is the perfect glue for the lead as well as the Pokemon in the back here. So I know that a lot of people are going to ask what kind of Pokemon you would go for, again, like instead of the Greedent or whatever. I would actually just still stick with the Greedent. Like, I would not even play this team if you don't have a Greedent. I feel like it's like such an important piece for this team. A little bit tricky might be something like a Virizion lead for this team, which I could see. Of course, you have the Psychic Fangs, theoretically at least, on your Luxray. But Greedent as a Seisop doesn't really work out too well for this, and you're still going to lose the lead as you are an Electric type. But other than this, basically this team was super solid, was super fun to play, and you're going to, of course, see here quite a few games as well. Again, I dropped a little bit the speed of the video, which I feel like is a little bit nicer to follow up as well for commentary. So hopefully you enjoyed this one as well. Here we're going to be able to still go for some body slams against the opponent's Tentacruel, trying to weaken them a little bit. And you see already the strength of the Greedent. Like, this Pokemon is just so insanely bulky and also so insanely spammy, allowing you to also get rid of the Switch Clock quite easily. And look at this, we even get to another body slam, trying to get the opponent low enough that we can spark them down. But they make a great play. I decided to go for a shield here because, again, you can go for Psychic Fangs, and Psychic Fangs plus Charm damage is kind of nice. And as you're going to see here, you have a Giratina on the back, which is working out super well for me. This is exactly what I meant before. Basically, the opponent is locked into their final Pokemon. Okay, they still have 1 left, but like it's 1 HP basically, and they cannot swap out of here. Unless they're gonna get an Ancient Power Boost, there's nothing they can do anymore, and of course they get an Ancient Power Boost. For me at this point, there's no reason to go for a charge move, and I have to hope that they're gonna go for the Ancient Power now. But they of course bait me, I couldn't really risk it. But actually they don't get to another move, and so we're going to be able to easily win this game as well. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have a Poliwrath in the lead. So this can be a little bit tricky because they can actually kinda, like, it's a very neutral lead, but they swap out into the Emperors, and maybe I played this a little bit wrong there. I think I could have won for a few more fast moves there. I feel like this was very bad fast move timing on my side, but I can swap out into my Greedent. I doubt that they're gonna go for a Focus Blast. Like, barely anybody is running Focus Blast anymore. They're either running Thunder Punch, Brutal Swing, or Brutal Swing and Trailblaze. So here you're going to see the Thunder Punch variant of this Pokemon, which is going to be fine. Maybe I could have went for the Charge move a little bit earlier here, but I can still overfarm by a little bit. I have a lot of energy on my Greedent. One Body Slam will be enough to knock them out after the debuff of their defense as well, which is going to be great. And for this team as well, you can decide to swap out of this matchup again if you want to, because they still have 2 answers for the Poliwrath. Of course, we're currently still locked into this matchup, but not for long. As we're going to see here, I can swap into my Luxray, and now it's going to be a little bit tricky. And honestly, I feel like I misplayed this matchup a little bit here in general. I should have went for the Psychic Fangs immediately, which would have made it a little bit easier to farm them down, I guess, because it's going to drop their defense. But what I did not really know here is that the opponent is actually going to be able to knock me out. We don't know what they have in the bag, but as long as it's not a Registeel, we should be kind of fine. And weirdly enough, the opponent's actually staying in this matchup here, and I'm just going to be able to charm them down, which is kind of fine. And they have a Registeel in the back. So there is still some hope here though. Like, this game is not over yet. I just have to maneuver around it. I have to let this move go through. And my win con here is my Greedent, because Greedent is a fast move that is super effective. We still have Crunch, and if we get a debuff early on, this would be amazing. But I make a mistake here, and you're going to see it as well, where I make the mistake. I decided to go for the Body Slam, because for me, it was kind of reasonable for them to use a shield here, because Crunch is going to be the hardest hitting move. They didn't, and so I basically lost the chance of dropping their defense. I didn't get the shield that I wanted to, and so I'm down to just the 9 hits, so would have been able to lock on me down if I didn't let the move go through, basically. And so we are in a very tricky spot, I would say. So yeah, we can still go for a Weather Ball, which is gonna be able to get the shield, but this next Weather Ball is not gonna do too much damage yet. I still have a shield though, and maybe there's still some hope, but let's see. We can use a shield against the opponent, but sadly, if you know already your counts correctly, you know that the opponent should be able to get there just one fast move before I can get to the Weather Ball, and this is exactly what's happening here. This is going to be a Focus Blast, and this is going to be a good game. Feel like if I went for the Crunch, this would have been maybe a different game. Next opponent coming through, let's see, we're going to have horrible lead of the Swampert. So we're going to swap out into our Greedent, we're going to get out the Charizard. This is not going to be ideal, our fast move is going to be single resisted, so you're barely doing any damage with us, but still, the Body Slam is going to be kinda nice here. As you're gonna see, we're gonna get the opponent kinda low, and what we can even try to do is maybe snipe them later on with the spark damage of our Luxray. As we can just go for a Body Slam here, the opponent's going to let this move go through, they're gonna be very, very low already. I can still get a shield back because I know that I cannot speed them to the 3rd Body Slam before they can go for a 2nd Blast Burn, which is kind of nice. I can just still try to go up. I know that they're going to go for a Blast Burn here on the CMP tie, so that's why I decided to use a shield. And I just want to keep the energy, so I decided to swap out. And you might think, no, this is kind of silly because they still have the Swampert. It is most likely a little bit silly, but you could even argue of going for the Wild Charge here, but I didn't want to put myself into a range where they can just go for the Hydro Cannon because they're forced to go for the Earthquake, wasting a ton of energy. And so it's actually kind of worth it, as the opponent is still going to be debuffed at this point. The Earthquake is coming through, we're gonna get knocked out by this, but we can still move into our Greedent, which has a move stored, and they are debuffed at this point. So there's definitely a lot of play that I can still do here. As the Body Slam is coming through, we're gonna get a ton of damage onto them. Another Body Slam is going to arrive just right after that, and this is going to force the shield from the opponent. I tried to snipe them here. If I had a Shadow variant of the Ninetales, this matchup would have been over already, as the opponent's Swampert would have been down then, and also I would have been able to do more damage here against the opponent's Warrain, which would have been really nice, because as you're going to see here right now, the Earthquake doesn't put us into range where we would have got knocked out even if we would have been Shadow, but as you're gonna see here, the Psyshock is barely not doing enough, and with the extra Charm here, which we would have been also able to, of course, get off with the Shadow variant, we would have been able to knock them out before they can go for another Earthquake. So this is going to be basically impossible to win now, because Greedent is going to have to take an Earthquake here from the opponent. But what you don't know is Greedent is busted. Honestly, like, what is this? Like, how can you survive this move there? It was below half health there as well. Honestly, super wild. Next opponent, we're going to have a Deoxys here. If the Deoxys plays it right, they know what they're doing, and they do know what they're doing, which is going to be the Psycho Boost on the Wild Charge here, which is not really ideal. I guess, again, you could play it a little bit differently, a little bit better than I did here, where you could go up a little bit higher and just try to shield up whenever they throw. But I decided to swap out into my Greedent, and they swap out into their own Greedent. Here you can go basically for two different plays. You can either go for the Body Slam, or you can go for the Crunch and hope for the debuff. If you get a debuff early, this is going to change the matchup completely, but if you don't get a debuff, you're going to be kind of wasting your energy and your damage, so like it's really risky here. The opponent goes for a crunch and they're gonna get the debuff immediately, because this is how this game is just honestly, like sometimes I cannot really have a straight face as well, because it's like kind of ridiculous sometimes. But yeah, we're going to see here that I can still go for a Body Slam, but it is kind of wild. Like honestly, I feel like the recent days, like the odds are always against me. It is mad. I don't even lose that much Edo or whatever. Like this team, for example, gained me some nice Edo as well. But it's just sometimes it's just mad. The opponent makes a great play there, going into the Gust Launch just to get hard-walled into a Ninetales, which I just find kind of hilarious, because he was like, yeah, I got this nice snipe. They didn't go for the Wild Charge. Amazing for me. Yeah, and then you end up against the worst possible option that he could have asked for. But this game is not over. The opponent has, of course, a Deoxys still, which is running, interestingly enough, the Thunderbolt, which is not a wrong move, but I would go for Rock Slide a little bit more on the Ultra League. In the Great League, Thunderbolt is, I think, way better, but here we're going to see that we can still swap out with our Greedent, go for the Crunch, and it barely does not knock them out. Okay, it's not really barely, but it does not knock them out. We can still go for a Body Slam here, which also not gonna get the knockout against the opponent, just barely is not enough. But they would knock me out when they go for their Body Slam, because I have less health. But actually, the opponent makes a great play here, which makes it a little bit more awkward, because they're undercharged it quite a bit. And I should have went for more fast moves here, but I decided not to do it so I can get another Charm off. In hindsight, this was most likely a mistake, as the opponent can still go for a Body Slam, which was a little bit silly by me. But yeah, at this point, we're sadly going to lose, as our Thunderbolt should knock us out at this point of time. But it actually doesn't, and again, 1 HP was deciding here, okay, a little bit more, so it's like 5 HP was deciding here this game, and we will be able to win this one. Next opponent, let's take a look what they're going to have. They're going to have a Cresselia in the lead, which is going to be something that we can deal with as well. Again, it's kind of interesting what you want to do here. You see me actually, this is something that I've never seen before. Look at this. The opponent goes for their charge move, and I still CMP tie, but loses CMP tie with a Pokemon that has like double the attack of a Cresselia, which was like kind of on purpose. I wanted to wait out the clock basically to see if the opponent throws or not, and then maybe just go for my own charge move if they don't throw, but they decide to throw, and I guess I clicked like half a second later, and it still put me into a CMP tie, which I never even knew was possible. What I also didn't know was possible is that the opponent gets debuff immediately, which is going to change this quite a bit, because like this, they're gonna still get another move off, which is really awkward for us, so we're in a bad spot as the opponent goes into their own Charizard. I at least can still go ahead and go for the Weather Ball, but like this game would have been already way different if they didn't get the debuff with the Scald, but it is what it is. It is just like the chance game, and honestly, it's one thing why I don't really want to participate currently in those regional tournaments as well. I just don't like the meta for the regionals especially. It's like all coming down to Whiscash / Poliwrath getting the Scald debuff, and I feel like this is just way too chancy, with chancy also like the community there, of course. But, yeah, like for me, it's just not really it. But yeah, we're going to see the next matchup here of Greedent against the Cresselia. We have 2 shields still on the opponent's side. I have 0 shields on my side, and they decide to let this move go through. But I'm still not giving up, and let's see if this is going to be worth it or not. We're going to see the Moonblast coming through, as we can go for the full farm down against the opponent. We still have 2 charge moves stored, and you know what's really cool about this? We can still go for 1. The opponent decides to use a shield here, but they know that they're going to have to let this move go through, because our other Pokemon still has a move stored, and so we can snipe them goodbye with our Luxray. Next opponent, let's see what they're going to have for us. They're going to have a Salazzle for us, and this is going to be a very dicey matchup, as the opponent is doing a ton of damage. I still have to build my Salazzle as well. I would have enough XL, don't really have a great Salazzle for it, but I feel like for Ultra League, does not really matter. This Pokemon has no bulk anyway. But would be an interesting one. We can go for the super effective move as well, but of course they're going to use a shield, and I'm forced to swap into my Greedent. I actually wonder how much damage this Mudshot is going to do. We're most likely not going to see it here exactly because the opponent decides to swap out. And this is going to be basically an impossible matchup for us now to win, most likely, as the opponent can just farm down our Greedent. I can still go for a Body Slam, but they actually decide to go for a charge move, which is kind of cool for me, because like this I can at least align my Ninetales here and just go for the full Charm down. But it's very unlikely that we're going to have a great time here, as the opponent can still go for a charge move. I'm forced to let this move go through, basically. we're going to be very low. I can go for the full farm run, which is kind of cool, but I'm forced to swap out again. It's going to be the Salazzle. I can go for my own charge move, which is kind of funny. And what I can also do is I can still go for one more fast move here, go for the Weather Ball, but now the opponent still has a full health Pokemon in the back, so there's no way of me winning this game, sadly, here. Unless this is so unlikely. Like, what are the chances to encounter in the back a Giratina with Dragon Breath when you basically just have a Ninetales with like next to no HP left? It's just so wild. I could not believe that this is actually something that we will be able to win here with like a few HP left on a Pokemon and the opponent had a full health Pokemon. Absolutely wild. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed the kind of different way of commentating today as well, maybe leave a like and also let me know in the comment section. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, check out the videos on the screen, and I will see you then. Bye bye.